So Claude Code integrated with Obsidian as your personal knowledge base has kind of taken the world of note-taking and knowledge management by storm, and indeed the world of tech by storm by extension. And it's easy to feel as though you're falling behind when you hear about everything that people are using the combination for, but I'm here to tell you not to worry, because like everything shiny object related, there are one or two useful things that you can take from such a configuration. And one of these things for Claude Code and Obsidian is skills. And so in this video, I'm going to show you which skills that I actually use on a daily basis to automate and streamline some repetitive tasks that I have inside of my knowledge management every day. So we will do things kind of as a chronological order. And so we will start a new session inside of my terminal, and you can see here I operate inside of my folder where my personal vault is stored, and you can see here I have the actual vault in question open with an outline for this video included, and so we'll get onto that outline a little bit later. So the way that I've been using Claude Code is through this terminal here, which is called Ghosty, and you cd from your root directory to wherever your vault is stored, and you run Claude there, and Claude will open up. And now what this does manually when you start out, and this isn't kind of a starter video, this is more of a video that I can show you to help you improve your function and use of skills when you've actually started to use Claude Code inside of your Obsidian Vault a little bit more. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to teach you about today. So I'm bearing in mind that you know how to do this step already, and we will walk through some of the skills which essentially are prompts. They're stored as markdown files inside of the .claude directory, which is somewhere down here normally, but it starts with a dot, so it doesn't come up in my Obsidian sidebar. But anyway, the first skill that I would run in general, even though it's one of the more complex skills, is the today skill. And now what that does, if I go to my skills reference file, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the future, you can see I've got a lot of skills. I've got a lot of skills inside of this folder. Trying to find where the today skill is. Here we go. This is the one that we're running now: morning action list, timed obligations, high leverage items, and ranked. So I've built some kind of lesser skills and infrastructure below this skill, and one of them is kind of like a similar to the Claude file that is used to kind of orient and position Claude in preparation for the work that needs to be done. But you can see here that today is kind of designed to, and I'll show you the content of the skill, it kind of reads everything and then checks through my vault to see what is ready to go and ready to work upon. And you can see here it spits out a little kind of outline of everything that is kind of right on the schedule. And you can see here there's a workshop that I've got this evening coming out all about using Claude Code and Obsidian to build websites and maintain websites, because that's what I do at the moment. YouTube video recording, that's the thing that I've got going on now. So a lot of it is to do with workshop management and preparation for tonight, which makes sense because you can only really prioritize one or two things in your life, in your workday. So that is what this today outline has mainly covered, but there are a couple of tasks here that it's also just kind of reminding me that I have them lined up and ready to execute upon. And we will talk about these kind of CRM entries and how I've set that up as well using Claude Code, because that's another interesting use case that actually saved me quite a lot of time. And a couple of little updates and things underneath here. And so there's a number one priority here: reschedule workshop broadcasts and prep for the workshop that is approaching this evening. And you can see here that is in and of itself a very useful skill, because it reminds me everything that I've got on my plate, everything that I've got scheduled, and all of these other kind of small action items that I said I would attend to but may have forgotten about. And therefore that is the number one skill on this list. And the next one is periodic process. And now this comes kind of alongside, well, I've renamed them now to process periodic and process inbox. And this is simply a little flyover of my periodic notes, which are my daily notes stored in this folder. You can see I've run it already. This is kind of a new-ish skill, so I'm kind of still refining this here, but it's simply what it does is it reads through all of the most recent notes that I've captured inside of periodic notes. So you can see here I've kind of got, that's a really old note actually. You can see here if I sort them, there we go, if I sort them new to old, then you can see I've got lots of different information that I've captured here. And you can note that this is still quite a lot of clutter for me to read through, but it means that instead of kind of having to navigate inside of every single daily note, I've got this little set of extracts from the notes of the main points and things that I can reference and read through and decide whether they're worthwhile or not. And then I can run this again and it will just pick up kind of where we left off, because you can see here I've put a little progress update down here that makes sure that the skill knows that where we've left off previously. And I have a very similar one for my inbox, which I want to show you now. So if we go here and we search process inbox, what it will do is read all of these files here and decide whether there's anything really relevant or actionable within them, and then kind of present me with, yeah, this is not ideal whatsoever to have hit our session limit. Okay, so we've hit 1 p.m. and my Claude limit has reset, I believe, and so we were on process inbox, which you can see down here, and we will continue now. And what this skill does is it simply reads everything that is found in the inbox and displays it as information here inside of my terminal. And I believe part of the skill is to render it underneath the list of notes, kind of in the same way that we have done with periodic. And so we will see what comes out of this skill here. And the idea with this, like I said previously, I believe, is simply to extract all of the actionable and useful and relevant pointers that I've actually captured in my inbox, rather than having to, say over here, go into each note just to be able to read what's inside of them. And so we will see how it renders here inside of the terminal, what it suggests that I do. And I've just come back to my computer as well, so might be a little bit slow to get Claude up and running. We will see if that prompts it a little bit on its way. You can see here 2 minutes 9 seconds. Sometimes the prompts do take a while to run, just because a lot of information has to be kind of collated and processed and turned into something that is useful output. Okay, here we go. We're receiving results from the prompt, and you can see I've got quite a lot of stuff left over in my inbox. Took 2 minutes and 47 seconds to run, but normally it's not that slow. And you can see here I've actually got more notes than appear inside of the actual table on this list, and so we're presented with quite a lot of items to process and action here. But what I can do when I run this skill is just simply read through and pick one or two things that are important to me at the moment and execute upon them. And of course you can't fully replace manual processes with Claude skills, so eventually I'll have to go through these inbox notes and delete the ones that are no longer relevant, or to an extent I want to develop this skill as well to be able to tell which stuff I've already implemented and which items are probably worthwhile just simply deleting without me having to go through and do it manually. But that is the process inbox skill, and it's very similar to how I process the periodic notes as well. But these skills need a little bit of work, and again, once we get to the end of the video, I will kind of touch upon how I manage and process and improve these skills as well. However, we'll move on to the next one that I use, which is a big one. It's /content. And so what this skill does is simply take an idea that I'm working upon and create an outline to do with this idea and place it inside of my content folder so that I'm ready to write or ready to record. And this is exactly what I did with this Claude Code skills note as well. I didn't write all of this. Obviously, I've kind of added elements and points into the outline that I think are important to make, and you can see that once it becomes a combination of my own ideas, which it is already as I demonstrate the skill in a moment, but once it becomes a combination of my own ideas and also a logical structure that is developed by Claude in order to create the outline for the video, it becomes quite a powerful skill, quite a powerful tool. And I can show you how it works because I think I've got some ideas for content that I would kind of run through this skill again. So you see here, I've got this note that is not really very fleshed out, but what I can do is content, and I have skills that are rather dependent upon which platform that I intend to post upon, just because there are kind of slight nuances between platforms that I need to kind of keep in mind and keep into account when I'm creating this content outline. But what I can do here is please create a full outline for this piece. And what this skill then does when I run it is it will kind of scope out all of the information in my readwise folder about information that I've captured from sources. It will go through my entire Zettelkasten and scrape all of the notes, which are my own ideas, by the way, from here that it thinks are actually relevant to this note as well. And if we just wait for this skill to run, you should see that what it does is it compiles everything inside of my vault, which is in general my own thinking and my own thought processes and my own work that has been executed upon and completed in the past. And it brings all of that context that is relevant and individual to me and puts it into an outline without me having to kind of from the top of my head draw in all of these thoughts and sources myself. So what this does is it essentially means that my personal knowledge management, as it were, is a lot more pure now. All I have to do is capture ideas and create notes of these ideas, whether that's in the Zettelkasten or in the periodic notes as well, which is something I found myself doing a lot more, or perhaps in the inbox as well. And instead of having to spend my whole life organizing these notes and putting them in the right place and then manually writing my outline and putting that outline in the right place manually and then getting it to a point where I can finally either record or write, all I have to do, like I said, is capture these ideas and make sure that they're actually inside the vault for the for the skill to read and recognize. And then once you confirm, yes, this is good, please make the outline. What the skill will do is it will compile everything into something that's ready to execute from. So for this, it's an article, and it will put together a outline, and I'll click that in a moment. Just wait for the agent to finish working. It will put everything into an outline that makes it very easy to read and deliver if I'm doing a presentation like this, which you can see is the case for such an outline here. And I wrote the hook, by the way, rather than letting the AI come up with the hook, because I know better than the AI. Even though it's got all of this context, I know better what the audience is wanting to see. But you can see here I've got way more context and information brought into an outline than would have existed in an old outline that I normally kind of make, and so you can see here that this skill has finished running now, but I'll show you a old outline of something that I might normally write. So it looks like this. It's just simple bullet points, the best utility apps. This one's not even being entered, but something like this is very simple. It's just a number of ideas that I've kind of combined together. And then once I run this skill, what we've got is a much longer and more in-depth. I mean, I didn't even know that it had all of this kind of information about how I managed my reference management inside of Obsidian for university. And so this is very, very powerful and kind of compresses the entire processing stage of creating new content into one skill that I can run quickly. And now all I've got to do is read this, make sure that it's all kind of relevant and correct, and then I can go about writing the article straight away. And so that saves me a lot of time in terms of researching. And because content is such a backbone to the way that all of my work operates, whether it's this business, whether it's Pros Lab as a business, which is my new business I've started with my friend Luca recently, all of it hinges on content. And so if I can create skills that allow me to manufacture high quality content without losing the kind of personal touch and personal nuance, then I'm going to take that any day of the week. And it still remains personal because it takes, you can see here, it takes references from all of the stuff that I've captured and all of the ideas that I've written inside of my vault. And so now all I've got to do is develop a slightly more pure and idea based and personal side to my knowledge management. So capturing ideas and then turning them into permanent notes in the Zettelkasten, which is the main source of thoughts. Turn them into some kind of reference document in which I can kind of store all of my old processes and things. It's much more of a documentation and idea capture and generation process now than it is anything to do with organization or management. And this saves a lot of time as well. So like I said, if you look here, I have content outlines for school posts, for Medium, articles for YouTube videos, and additionally for like content broadcasts or content sequences, which is for my emails that I might want to be able to write and share with my email list inside of the business. So this is probably the highest leverage skill that I've developed inside of this vault. That is perhaps aside from this close skill, which I'm going to touch upon at the end, and also this CRM skill that I have been developing as well. So with CRM skills, I have my community, which you can join because there'll be a link in the description at the top, etc., etc. You get access to my Parazettal vault templates and all of the rest of it, and a few kind of videos talking you through my own theories. But we've got this community here, and people have to apply to enter, and when they want to apply, I'll see their application up here, and then all I do is I screenshot their entry and run the CRM ad skill, which I've implemented the ConvertKit API inside of this vault now, so it can make calls to my ConvertKit account. And what this will do is when I run this skill, I've defined it such that the skill kind of reads all of the information about the member that wants to join and creates an entry inside of the CRM that I have in this system. And I'm not going to expose the names of all of the people who are inside of the community and their emails and things. But what this does is store information about who this person is, where they've actually come from in terms of the source of their learning about my work. So often it's Medium or YouTube. Occasionally I get Twitter and LinkedIn and that kind of thing. And it also takes their answer to the question of what they would like to learn about the most inside of the community and places it in there. And then once that has taken place, I have CRM, which reads the CRM and chooses perhaps 5 of the most high leverage interactions I can make with members of my community at any given time. And it means that I can then send these people DMs knowing that they are kind of like recently active and that they are interested in something that I'm pushing more during my content at the moment. And it means that once again, I have to do less of the actual research and evaluation process myself, which can be very long-winded and quite easily like generated as a repeatable cycle to undergo. And that's what the CRM skill does. And so I've got a couple of variations of that. Like CRM sync makes sure that everyone's tagged correctly in ConvertKit and my local CRM in Obsidian. And additionally, CRM add, like I demonstrated, is for me to add new members into the CRM in a consistent way, without much effort on my part. And so that is the penultimate skill that I want to touch on. And then the final one, probably from an infrastructure perspective, the most important one is close, and that updates all of the files and context and general overview information that the agent reads from /today, which I run when I start the session. So this is kind of like the chain that links 2 sessions together. And so if I go close here and I say I've just started to wrap up the recording of the video about Claude skills, everything we've done in this session has served as demonstration. And once I run that, the Claude code skill close is implemented, and it reads everything that we've kind of achieved and executed upon in this session that we've been working. And then it writes to all of the main kind of agent files here, which I don't think you can actually see because this is the agent's second brain now, and it's not something that I generally browse and figure out how to use. So we'll see if we can find it there. I mean, you see it will write to Claude, and it will write to Orient as well, which is kind of like an up-to-date context file talking about the things that we've recently completed and things that are yet to be done. And you can see here that the session has served as a live demonstration for 7 Claude Code skills I use in my vault every day, ran all of the skills, and you can see here that it's kind of noted that all of this information has changed and been attended to. And once you are done, you can approve updates just here, and it makes all of these changes to these kind of overarching files that serve as context. And then once I close the session, once this skill has been done, once I run another session here and hit the today skill, all of that information and that prior context is loaded in to the session without any additional effort. And that just makes sure, because you can't work in the same session forever because you've got a context limit, and it starts to run down your tokens very severely. And so that is something that has made it kind of very continuous across my work. I don't have to kind of manually tell Claude to pull in all of the context that's going to be useful in whatever session we're working in. And so those two today and close just kind of link the entire process together across sessions, and thus, like, from an infrastructure perspective, they're very useful and they're very powerful. And so that's pretty much it in terms of the skills that are actually used inside of my vault. And there's a meta point here that I would like to make, in that this is AI assisted processes that I would go about doing myself. And because it's kind of inferred from all of the context that's stored inside of my vault, it really is still very personal and very precise and relevant to my business. And I would never go about actually creating this content. I wouldn't use kind of like an AI avatar to replace myself in presenting this stuff. I wouldn't ever use AI to generate all of my articles and things that I actually write and create. But there are a lot of processes in the middle that can be augmented and improved and accelerated through using AI for things like research and organization and compilation and things like that. And so, especially in something that's essentially a business, I don't do this for the pure love of research and compilation and organization. I do it for the love of teaching and sharing the work, and any skill that I can develop that allows me to do more of that, i.e. capturing ideas and working on my own thoughts and then going about sharing it with you. Anything that can help me do that is going to be something that's beneficial, not just to myself, but to the person watching, because they get more content, they get more complete and well compiled content. And so that is kind of my debunking of the idea that AI perhaps shouldn't be used in a space kind of like this. And one more thing, I think the skills reference is something worth touching upon as well. And you can see here, this is something I implemented recently, which is an agent note that just outlines all of the skills that I do have installed in this vault, because they're in a kind of hidden Claude vault by default when you create a skill. And so what I can do here now is just read the content of skills that are executed upon. And then if I don't like them, so I didn't like this social content skill, I kind of imported it as part of a package. I can delete it, and I've got a skill in here that's kind of skill sync, which will take all of the changes that I've made to this note that's actually inside of my vault and implement it upon the folder of skills that exists elsewhere in the Claude configuration. And so this means that I can stay very, very refined and up to date on all of the skills that are inside my vault. And in fact, what I do need to do is go through and make sure that they're actually helping me in any way, because by and large, I'll bring it back here, by and large, you don't need that many skills. You need to, like I have shown you in this video, pick a handful of the skills and other repeatable tasks that you're always ending up doing inside of your PKM system, i.e. your Obsidian vault, and you need to be able to automate those. And then again, you look at something like minimal note taking, the Pareto principle, anything that is kind of serving as a mental model for optimization and prioritization. You take the 1 or 2 or 3 high leverage things and you make sure those work really well, as opposed to just having your finger in 80 different pies and not really ever using any of those skills in your work in a useful way. And so if you're just starting out with Claude skills and using them inside of your note-taking system, then do that. Pick the one. First of all, pick the one that would be the most useful and start to implement it. And I'm going to go and put out some more information soon about how you can kind of implement this agent architecture inside of your vault, which gives Claude Code its own kind of second brain that lets you work in a more streamlined way without having to kind of reload context into chats again and again and again. However, I just wanted to do a top-down view of the skills that are actually useful to me in this video. And aside from that, I teach a lot more about this inside of my Claude Code and Obsidian module inside of the Parazettal classroom, which is part of the Parazettal community. And now that's a premium upgrade, but you can actually join the community for free and get a week's worth of video lessons that talk about Parazettal as a system and how I use Obsidian and how I approach note-taking from a theory perspective. And then at the end of that, you get the Parazettal template vault for Obsidian, which is kind of my flagship core offer that I've kind of shared. I used to sell, but now share for free as the kind of the core and the flagship of the business. You get that inside of the community for free as well. So check the top link in the description, because that is where you'll find that. And check the link underneath that as well, because I'm starting to open up some spots for people to have my help to develop their own bespoke Claude code implementations inside of their own Obsidian vaults. And as of the time of recording, this is something that's very new. So if you check that out and become one of the first couple of people to sign up for calls and then sign up to work with me, you're going to get it for a much discounted price compared to what I intend to offer it for shortly in the future. And so description for the links, and thank you for paying attention all the way through this video. I hope you learned something new about Claude Code and how AI can actually be implemented into your knowledge management system in a useful way. And I will see you in the next one. So take care, and I'll see you soon.